Every culture on Earth has a trickster. The coyote of the American Southwest, Loki of the Norse, Hermes of the Greeks, the divine con-man who escorts the dead and living with the same easy smile, the fox of Japanese folklore, the raven of the Pacific Northwest. The trickster is universal because the trickster answers a universal question. What do you do when the rules are stacked against you? When the powerful have all the weapons, all the wealth, all the authority? When playing by the rules means losing by the rules? You cheat. You find the angle nobody else saw. You spin a web and wait. The Akan people of West Africa, the culture that gave the world the Ashanti Empire, that produced some of the most sophisticated goldwork in human history, that developed a system of governance and philosophy scholars are still studying, have a trickster. His name is Anansi. And Anansi is not simply the most beloved trickster in African mythology. He is, by any serious measure, the most consequential trickster in world mythology. Not because his stories are more dramatic than Loki's, not because his cleverness is more elegant than Hermes's, but because of what his stories survived, because of the road they travelled, because of what those stories meant to the people who carried them across an ocean in the hold of a ship and told them in the dark when everything else had been taken. Today we're talking about Anansi, the spider, the storyteller, the one who outsmarted death, and the reason his stories still matter. Anansi is a spider, or a man who is sometimes a spider, who is sometimes a man. The fluidity is not an inconsistency, it is the point. Anansi exists between categories, and that in-betweenness is the source of his power. He originates with the Akan people of present-day Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire, though his influence spread throughout West Africa and through the transatlantic slave trade across the Caribbean and the American South. In Jamaica, he became Anansi. In Suriname, Trinidad, and the Gullah Geechee communities of the American coastal South, the spider persisted. Wherever the Akan people were taken, Anansi went with them, not as a carved idol or a written text, but as a story, carried in memory, told in secret, surviving because stories are the one thing you cannot confiscate at the dock. In the original Akan tradition, Anansi is a god, the son of Nyame, the sky god, the supreme deity. His divine domain is significant. Anansi owns all the stories in the world. Before Anansi, stories did not belong to human beings. They belonged to Nyame, locked away in the sky. The world existed without narrative, without the organizing structure that stories provide, without the ability to say, this is how things came to be. This is what it means to be human. Anansi went to Nyame and bought all the stories. The price was designed to be impossible. The story of how he paid it is worth telling in full. When Anansi approached Nyame and said he wanted to buy all the stories in the world, Nyame laughed. Kings and warriors had made this request before, and none could pay his price. And here was a spider making the same request. Niami set his price. 4 things. Onini the python, the great rock python, longest and strongest snake in the forest. The Sibo, the leopard, the most dangerous predator in West Africa. The Mumaboro hornets, the most aggressive stinging insects in the forest. And Mumuatia, the fairy, a small, invisible spirit creature that cannot be seen and does not like to be caught. Niami believed the price was, functionally, a polite refusal. Anansi went home and thought. Then he went to work. For the python, he cut a long branch and started talking loudly to himself near where Onini lay, wondering aloud whether the branch was longer than the python. Pythons are proud. Onini demanded to know what Anansi was saying. Anansi apologized and suggested they measure. The python stretched out alongside the branch. Anansi tied him to it, one vine at a time, talking pleasantly about what a magnificent length the python had. By the time Onini understood what was happening, he was completely bound. For the hornets, Anansi filled a gourd with water, poured it over himself and the nest, and shouted that a great rainstorm had begun. The hornets flew into the gourd he provided. He sealed it. For the leopard, Anansi dug a pit and covered it with branches. A Sibo fell in. When he asked for help, Anansi bent a green sapling into the pit, then released it from the other side, launching the leopard into his net. For Mumuatia, Anansi carved a wooden doll, covered in sticky tree sap, and placed it near where the fairy played, with a bowl of yams as an offering. When Mumuatia arrived, and the doll didn't respond to her greeting, she struck it and stuck fast. She struck again, stuck, and Anansi had her. He brought all 4 to Niami. The sky god was astonished, not just that Anansi had done it, but at how. Not with strength, with patience, misdirection, and the ability to understand what each creature wanted, and to use that want as a mechanism of capture. The python's vanity, the hornet's instinct, the leopard's desire for escape, the fairy's sociability. Niami gave Anansi all the stories. From that day, the stories belonged to the spider, and through the spider to the people who told his tales. The choice of a spider as a vehicle for this mythology is not accidental. The spider sits at the center of its web. The web extends in all directions, connecting to everything around it, catching everything that moves near it. The spider knows instantly when anything in the network has been disturbed. It doesn't chase, it doesn't confront. It waits at the center of its information network and knows everything that happens in its vicinity. This is exactly what makes Anansi effective as a trickster. He doesn't overpower his opponents. He outknows them. He understands what they want, what they fear, what they believe about themselves, and uses that understanding with precision. The web is also a thing of extraordinary craft. The spider produces it from its own body, from nothing visible, and the result is geometric perfection, stronger by weight than steel. In a tradition where skill is deeply valued, This matters. Anansi is not lucky, he is skilled. His victories are earned. And the web catches things, stories, in the Akan understanding, are the net that catches the world. They organize experience, give it meaning, hold it in a form that can be shared and transmitted. Anansi the spider, who owns all the stories, who catches everything in his web. The metaphor is not decorative, it is structural. He is a spider because that is what the owner of all stories would have to be. The stories that cluster around Anansi's encounters with death are numerous and regional. Different communities tell them differently, but a consistent pattern emerges. Anansi does not fear death. He engages with it the way he engages with everything else, as a problem to be solved, a negotiation to be won, an opponent whose vanity or appetite can be found and used. In one widespread version, Anansi is killed, caught, destroyed, depending on the telling, and his wife Aso mourns him. But Anansi has left instructions. The web holds a thread that leads back. He has hidden a piece of himself in a story that hasn't been told yet. The details vary, the outcome does not. Anansi returns. In another tradition, Anansi tricks death into entering a sack. The same principle as the hornets, the same principle as the leopard. Death, trapped, cannot take anyone. The world fills with the old and sick who cannot die, and eventually the people beg Anansi to release death. He does, but on his own terms. The philosophical claim embedded in these stories is radical. Death is not the most powerful thing in the world. Knowledge is. The one who knows more, who sees the angles others don't see, has an advantage even over death. Not permanently, not with certainty, but in the particular moment of encounter when the right understanding meets the right opportunity, the one who knows things can slip through the door that death thought was locked. Here is the part of the Anansi story that goes beyond folklore and becomes something else, something historical, something that should be said plainly. The transatlantic slave trade, from roughly the 16th to the 19th century, transported between 12 and 12.5 million people from West and Central Africa to the Americas. The people taken were stripped of almost everything, their languages in many cases, their family structures, their names, their legal personhood, their freedom. They were not stripped of their stories. The Anansi tradition survived the Middle Passage. In the Caribbean, where large concentrations of Akan and related peoples arrived, the stories were told and retold. In Jamaica, Anansi became Anansi. In Suriname and Trinidad, in the Gullah Geechee communities of the American coastal South, the spider persisted. In the American South more broadly, his characteristics migrated into the figure of Brer Rabbit, another small, apparently weak creature who survives by outwitting the strong through knowledge of their appetites and vanities. The survival of these stories was not accidental and not trivial. They carried a philosophy, and that philosophy the weak can defeat the strong through intelligence, patience, and the willingness to use the opponent's own assumptions against them, was not merely comforting, it was practical. It was a survival manual. The enslaved people who told Anansi stories were not escaping into fantasy. They were transmitting a methodology. They were saying to their children, this is how you stay alive when everything is designed to kill you. You learn what the powerful want. You learn what they fear. You learn what they underestimate about you. And you use every one of those things. Anansi survived death in the mythology. The mythology survived the attempt to destroy it in history. The parallelism is not accidental. There is something important about the trickster that is easy to miss if you read the stories too quickly. Anansi doesn't always win. He is outwitted, caught, humiliated, killed in some stories. The cleverness does not make him invulnerable. What makes Anansi the trickster rather than simply a hero is not that he wins consistently. It is that he keeps playing, that he reframes the game when he loses, that the story is never definitively over as long as there is still a story to tell about it. This is a deeper philosophical claim of trickster mythology and why the trickster is so culturally durable. In a world where strength wins most of the time, where the powerful stay powerful, where the rules favour those who made them, the trickster offers an alternative model of persistence. Not the hero's model, I am strong enough to beat you. Not the martyr's model, I am righteous enough to endure you. The trickster's model, I am adaptable enough to outlast you. The python, the leopard, the hornets, the fairy, all were stronger than Anansi in the ways they measured strength. None of that mattered, because Anansi changed the terms of every contest. He never fought on anyone else's ground. And this is why Anansi owns the stories. Because stories are the mechanism by which the terms of the contest are set. Whoever controls the narrative, whoever decides how an encounter is framed, what counts as winning, whose values are central, has more power than any weapon provides. Anansi owns the stories because stories are what power is actually made of. The Anansi stories are doing more than one thing simultaneously. On the surface, they are entertaining. The Python story is genuinely funny. There is something delightful about Anansi casually tying up the world's most powerful snake, while making pleasant conversation about its impressive length. The leopard in the pit, the hornets in the gourd. These are comic set pieces, stories that make children laugh and adults nod. Underneath that, they are philosophy, a complete epistemology. The world is knowable, and knowledge of the world gives you leverage over it, and the person who knows more has advantages that strength cannot overcome. A complete ethics. Anansi uses his opponent's own natures against them, but he rarely destroys them gratuitously. He is not vindictive, he is strategic. And underneath that, they are history, the record of a people who developed one of the most sophisticated intellectual traditions in the world. The Akan philosophy of personhood and community and justice encoded in the Adinkra symbols still found on Ghanaian textiles, in the proverbs that structure Akan speech, in the political traditions that gave the Ashanti state its remarkable longevity. Anansi is not separate from that tradition. He is its most portable expression. He is what wisdom looks like when it has to survive without a library, without a temple, without a country. He is what wisdom looks like when it has to fit in a story small enough to be whispered in the dark. Anansi is still alive, not as a relic. Neil Gaiman wrote a version of him in American Gods in the spin-off Anansi Boys. A small man in a pork pie hat who is simultaneously charming and absolutely terrifying. And the betrayal captures something real. The spider is still spinning. He survived the sky god's impossible price. He survived death in a dozen stories. He survived the Middle Passage in the memories of people who had nothing else left. He survived centuries of a dominant culture that tried to dismiss African intellectual traditions as primitive. None of it worked, because Anansi is, among other things, a story about the survival of stories, about the fact that the thing you cannot take from people, the last thing, the thing that remains after everything else is gone, is the narrative of who they are and where they came from and what they know. Every Anansi story ends more or less the same way. The spider wins, or the spider loses and comes back, or the spider is gone and the web remains. Something persists, something the powerful thought they had dealt with permanently is still there. Thanks for watching.